NYC Smoke Free, along with our partners at the Herbert Irving Comprehensive Cancer Center at Columbia University. Students from both our Reality Check program and Columbia's Summer Youth Enrichment program have worked really hard to put together this educational discussion of tobacco from their own perspectives. A few notices before we begin are to please remember to stay muted. We want everyone to be able to hear our panelists and not miss any information because it's all very important. And if you have any questions, please place them in the chat box so that we could answer. There will be a survey right at the end of the webinar. So before you exit, please participate. That would be greatly appreciated. And now I will give a brief overview about the two programs. So NYC Smoke Free is a program of public health solutions that works to protect the health of New Yorkers through tobacco control policy, advocacy, and education. NYC Smoke Free's youth action arm, called Reality Check, is a student-led, adult-supported program for those between the ages of 13 through 18. Reality Check Youth engage community partners and organizations across New York City to raise awareness about the negative health and social impact of the presence and use of tobacco. The Science, Humanities, and Career Enrichment Month is hosted by the Office of Community Outreach and Engagement at the Herbert Irving Comprehensive Cancer Center. The program offers students an opportunity to learn from and engage with public health researchers. The program, which takes place in the afternoon from Mondays through Thursdays, feature presentations by prominent public health experts around contemporary public health issues such as cancer health inequities, COVID-19, and cancer prevention. Students also meet with a peer group every week to engage in discussions and skill development like public speaking, essay writing, and learning about the college application process. The program is led by Drs. Mary Beth Terry and Jasmine McDonald. Over the past few weeks, we have worked together on this webinar in order to educate all of you about the negative influence that big tobacco has on youth through their deceptive marketing tactics and deadly products. As many of you already know, tobacco use is still the leading cause of death and disease in New York City and New York State, and tobacco companies use products such as menthol cigarettes and a crazy variety of flavors in e-cigarettes to target vulnerable populations such as the youth, African American communities, and the LGBTQ community. Currently in New York City, about 13,000 public high school students smoke cigarettes, while nearly 45,000 public high school students use e-cigarettes. These numbers may sound alarming, but they will keep continuing to rise unless we bring more awareness to the issues and further education across the city and state. Throughout these presentations, you will hear more about how big tobacco has had a negative influence upon our youth, and we will take this opportunity to hear from our experts on what we can do to advocate for changes in our communities. That being said, our first animated video demonstrates the ways in which the tobacco industry markets their deadly products towards the youth. So if we could have the first animated video play.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, thank you, Makiba and Biancelli. We hope you all enjoyed that video animation. And, it's crazy to see that teens are vaping to do cool tricks so that they could potentially become famous. And then there are also a variety of different shapes and flavors that e-cigarettes come in. And this is a plan that big tobacco companies use because they want us to fall into their trap, which many of us actually do, unfortunately. Our next presentation will highlight the most recent epidemic of vaping and e-cigarette usage. You will hear from our teens Charity and Tui, Milan White, Nawar Ahmed, Abraham Weisblot, Nicholas Mancuso, and Kenny Rodriguez, talking about the presence of vaping on social media, the impact of peer pressure, and other issues that come along with its use.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Let me turn on my camera, guys. You have to see me. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar. My name is Charity Entwi, and today Milan and I will be presenting and discussing teens and vaping and guiding you through our presentation that was co-created with me and my fellow peers. Take it away, Milan.
For our agenda today, we are going to explore what is vaping, the influence of vaping in social media, peer pressure, stress and anxiety, and the fight against big tobacco. What is vaping? Well, vaping is a relatively new product that has become very popular due to their easy to conceal look and numerous amount of flavors. Vaping products are also known as e-cigarettes as well as hookahs. E-cigarettes contain a cartridge with a numerous amount of chemicals, including nicotine and other flavors. It is a new form of danger to the youth and parents because of its poisonous gas and its packaging that is easy to conceal. As you can see in the picture, these vape pens are easily disguised as flash drives. What is in vape? Some stuff that are in vape are fireworks, rocket fuel, and preservatives. These are common items that we wouldn't consciously inhale or put into our body due to their dangerous contact. Who is using vape products? Tobacco use among high school students. Unfortunately, a major of these products are being consumed by my generation. Tobacco has sensationalized the dangerous product and has strategically targeted youth with their marketing and ads. Across the US, more than 54% of high school students use e-cigarettes. Youth are more likely to use vape than traditional. And here's Charity with the rest of the slides.
Okay, thank you, Milan. So the question you may ask, why are there so many teens vaping? And well, that is because of you, Target. So it is not surprising that teens are being targeted because we are the only source of replacement smokers. Tobacco companies view as teens as their last hope of staying in business. And over the past decade, their key demographic of large tobacco company are either dying off or starting to quit smoking. Due to that reason, these companies have made an appeal to attract teenage audiences through flavored vapes and ads, which often create this perception that vaping products are just either healthier solution to smoking or that is just water. They're not harmful. And however, we have to recognize that we are a pawn in their scheme, and it's crucial to both quitting vapes and not starting in the first place. So, aside from the ads and flavors, there's also the power of influence. So, the power of influence comes into play as part of their marketing, and many of us have been influenced before. I'm pretty sure today. And today, in the age of social media, we are so vulnerable to many of these influences that may not be positive. So social media. Well, social media allows users to be exposed to all the world's content. However, the social media leaves the youth vulnerable. And often now, tobacco companies use social media influencers and models, ads, that portray vaping as a cool and youthful thing. Like the use of like flashy and colorful sounds and music often perpetuates popularity and coolness. And those two factors are times what we desire when we're entering high school or middle school, for example. And with like ads of teen vaping and laughing, it dilutes the health risk when it comes to vaping. So how do we stay away from this negative influence? Well, it's all about educating ourselves. So we have to recognize our peers on social media. We have seen students post videos on themselves vaping, either doing cool tricks, sharing the vapes with a friend, and often it seems fun, it seems attractive. However, that coolness and attractiveness is what pushes people into trying this addictiveness. And I have a personal like experience. I have noted many of my peers on Snapchat posting themselves selling the vaping cartridges with the price and the bulk of products, and that is such a danger to my younger peers on social media because they might not know better. And it's scary how big tobacco companies have turned some of my peers into peddlers. So now, peer pressure. Peer pressure is also another factor that pushes some of our peers into vaping. And so a national youth tobacco survey conducted by the CDC found the majority of grades 6 to 12 students claim that they started vaping due to a family or an acquaintance who pressured them into doing it. And also the availability of various flavors that include sugar, mint, peach are also a big factor in the teen vaping epidemic. And the taste and the smell of the chemicals inside of the vapes appeal to the more younger audiences than its traditional audience. And more importantly, because of these flavors, these ads, this such youthful image created by tobacco companies, there's a habit of thinking that it's not harmful at all, and often or not we're peer pressure into it. And we have here a video. It's an interview between my peer Nicholas and a previous student who used vaping products.
What made you turn to vaping and why?
I guess I was a little peer pressured into it because everybody at the school I go to goes to it, and I'm not really sure why I started. Vaping is kind of dumb. I'm done now. I don't do it anymore.
Okay, and so from this video, with this interviewee, they shared this feeling of peer pressure that I feel like is really common among high school and middle school students. And along with peer pressure, there is some ways to deal with the stress and anxiety. Peer pressure is what causes a lot of stress, which is often natural, and however, it can also trigger anxiety. We have to recognize the students shouldn't be forced to turn to vaping as a way to relieve those negative feelings. And there's such way better solutions, such as the crisis text line, or even websites such as the Truth Initiative, which provide better and healthier way to cope, because vaping is not a healthy coping method at all. So quitting vapes, and we all can acknowledge that quitting vapes is not an easy task because the feeling of tension, irritability, or anxiety are normal in these early stages of our life. However, we also have to understand that nicotine is harmful. Thus, we have provided the New York State Smokers Quit Line, which is a platform that students, the youth, my generation, can use to help themselves quit vaping. From all of us, thank you so much for joining into our presentation. Have a good day, guys.
Now we will take some questions from the audience, so you guys can type any questions in the chat. I know that there's one question that says, does vaping always involve nicotine?
Oh, Milan, do you want to answer this question?
Answer is yes, because nicotine is in both traditional cigarettes and vaping.
All right, thank you. So I don't see any questions as of right now. So we're going to move on, but if you guys have any questions, please write them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. So our next video that we'll discuss is a big issue in our community, and it's been going on for quite a while now. While it's not new, it has become more evident more lately about how the inequality and social injustice present in society are reflected through health disparities as well. Tobacco is no exception, especially when you consider how tobacco companies for decades have infiltrated and targeted the Black community and youth with menthol products. RC Voices is a web series with students interviewing peers on their perceptions of tobacco use. And for this particular episode we are about to view, it will focus on the dangers of menthol tobacco products.
This is RC Voices, a multimedia project where reality check youth in New York City interview their peers about the impact that tobacco has had in their lives.
The minty taste is kind of like gum. So if you go to the store, like any kid or anyone would buy a pack of gum, they can buy a pack of cigarettes because it has the same minty taste.
I feel like it blocks out the flavors that, the harsh flavors. That's what they don't taste what a real cigarette tastes like, because they're only tasting what your toothpaste tastes like or your gum, right?
I know that there are cigarettes with a minty flavor that gives a cooling sensation to smokers.
So menthol is a minty substance, and it's added to cigarettes because of the cooling sensation that it has on your throat when you smoke it.
I think that because of the way that it goes down so smoothly, it hides the harshness of tobacco.
I see like the corner stores, there's so much corner stores and where minorities live, and they have so much cigarettes, Newports, all types of cigarettes near where kids go to school, where like anywhere, like at any corner you can find a corner store with cigarettes in it. Compared to like the city where there's barely that much corner stores with cigarettes in it, with cigarette stores. Like in the harsh cities like here, like poverty, you can find them easy.
I think it increases the amount of people who smoke by reducing the harshness and effect of the drug on people. So it'll become more popular with people.
I feel like we should break down what exactly is within menthol, because not many people know the hazardous effects it has on both the community and themselves.
To address the issue of menthol, I really think that advocates should speak up, that more laws should be made, rules should be enforced, and most of all, education is really important.
Okay, and our final presentation is about the health and environmental effects that smoking and vaping causes for consumers. There are many well-known consequences associated with smoking, such as lung cancer, which I'm sure like most of us are aware of. My peers Oriana Parsa, Yurihi Wu, and Alicia Deer, Sabrine Mohammed, and Shirley Wu will touch on environmental factors that many of us aren't aware of, such as pollution, climate change, and the costs that friends and families of smokers may face when tobacco products are consumed.
Okay, so hi guys, my name is Oriana Parsa. I'm 14 years old, and I'm a student at the High School for Math, Science, and Engineering. And today, I'm going to be talking a little bit on the effects of smoking on health and the environment. So before we begin, I just wanted to quickly explain the differences between e-cigarettes and combustible cigarettes. So e-cigarettes are electronic cigarettes. They have these ultrafine particles that get stuck in the lungs. They also have these aerosols, chemical flavorings, heavy metals, and other cancer-causing agents. Combustible cigarettes are the more generic type of cigarette that you see every day, the type that you light up. And there are over 7,000 chemicals that can cause severe organ damage, and nearly 70 of these chemicals are known to cause cancer. So health effects of e-cigarettes and cigarettes. So before we begin with this, I just wanted to quickly mention that teens that vape are likely to smoke in the future. So even if right now you're saying, oh, it's not that big of a deal, it's only once a week, I go out with my friends, and it's something, you know, I just want to fit in, I just want to look cool. Unfortunately, since it's very addictive, that will likely develop into a habit, and eventually, most likely, a really difficult addiction to get over. So smoking can cause fatal lung diseases among teens and adults. Also, device malfunctions can cause severe injuries. So if you're smoking with an e-cigarette, if it like overheats or if it short circuits, that can cause like burns and even nerve damage sometimes. Also, nicotine harms adolescent brain development. So your brain, you know, controls everything. And if it harms your brain development, that can put your entire body at risk and all of your functions. So here, this little infographic shows a few other health effects of e-cigarettes and of smoking. So it can increase respiratory symptoms. So you can have a cough or shortness of breath or difficulty breathing. Smoking may cause injury to the airways. It can cause inflammation and cell damage to the lungs. It's also linked to precancerous changes in lung tissue. So you may develop tumors, and they can become malignant and become actual lung cancer. And also, even if you don't have any actual organ damage, if you ever were to get sick, you would have a much harder time, getting healthy again, because your immune system can have your immune system might be compromised by smoking. So it'll be a lot harder for you to be healthy if you ever do get sick. So not only does smoking affect your health a lot, but it also really affects the environment. And so this infographic was made by one of our peers, Sabrine, and it's a nice little overview on the ways that e-cigarettes can harm the environment. So when it comes to plastic pods, just like plastic straws, Juul pods are made out of plastic, which creates significant amounts of waste and can take years to break down. Also, a lot of it ends up as litter. So single-use pods can end up as litter, which adds on to the issue of tobacco product litter. Every year, there are 1 to 2 billion plastic pods going into the trash. And if lined up, these pods would stretch from New York to LA. And just in case you're not familiar with the map of the United States, New York is all the way on the East Coast and LA is all the way on the West Coast. So that's basically like the entire span of the United States. Also, when it comes to heavy metals, e-cigarettes can leak heavy metals and residual nicotine into the environment. And e-cigarettes, such as Juul, can qualify as both e-waste and biohazard waste. So not only is there a lot of litter associated with, as a result of smoking e-cigarettes, but also it's really dangerous litter. And we'll talk about that more in a few slides. So the most sort of obvious way that smoking affects the environment is through air pollution. So before we begin, I just wanted to kind of clarify what secondhand smoke is. So basically, if I'm not smoking, but someone next to me is, and I'm inhaling all of that smoke, that would be secondhand smoke. So in this scenario, these shared air spaces would be contaminated by secondhand smoke and toxic aerosols from e-cigarettes and combustible cigarettes. And this alone causes nearly 34,000 premature deaths each year. And remember, secondhand smoke means that you're not actually smoking. So these 34,000 premature deaths are completely, people that die are not at fault whatsoever. They're not doing a single thing wrong, and they're still dying. So when you're smoking, you're not only, putting yourself at risk, but you're putting everyone else around you at risk as well. Also, tobacco contributes to almost 5% of global greenhouse gas production. And so this really contributes to global warming and climate change. And we'll talk about this a little at the end. All of this leads to asthma, bronchitis, and pneumonia in children and adults. And you're also putting your pets at risk for having health problems. And we'll talk about that too. So one of my other peers, Shirley, interviewed Dr. Bullman, who is a pulmonologist at the New York Presbyterian Hospital. And so let's play it.
What about secondhand smoke? Given all the protection put in from no smoking in restaurants, planes, and parks, and some policies in apartments, buildings, are there still cases of people developing cancer from secondhand smoke? Is it decreasing?
The answer is yes, there are still cases. Generally, those are secondhand smoke in household contacts of active smokers, so people who've lived with smokers for a very, very long time. We also occasionally see people who were exposed to secondhand smoke in the workplace. So up until the laws that were passed under Mayor Bloomberg, there was smoking in various public places. And if you happen to work in one of those places, like a bar, you were exposed frequently to smoke. And the smoke exposure, or the cases related to secondhand smoke, may be distant secondhand smoke exposure. Somebody may not have been exposed for the last 10 years, but if they were exposed for 20 years of their adult lifetime, either in the home or in the workplace, they can develop lung cancer as a result of that exposure.
Okay. So basically, Shirley was referring to laws and policies made by individual buildings to sort of reduce the risk of people getting affected by secondhand smoke. So in some buildings, you're not allowed to smoke in them. Also, like corporate buildings, all of this is just so that, like I said, the risk of people, getting sick and even potentially dying from secondhand smoke exposure, to kind of like minimize that risk and hopefully prevent it. So she was asking Dr. Bullman, since there are all these new laws and these new policies, is that actually working? Are people still getting affected? And his answer was that unfortunately, yes, it's more long-term it's a more long-term effect. So you don't see the health issues right away, but they still exist. So basically, like I said before, you're putting yourself at risk every time you smoke, and you're putting your family at risk, and everyone, coworkers, everyone you're around. So that is definitely one thing to think of. Also, like I said, smoking definitely also affects your pets. So just like exposing humans to secondhand smoke can affect their health, exposing pets to secondhand smoking can lead to eye infections, allergies, respiratory issues, and many different types of cancer like lung cancer, oral cancers, and lymphatic cancers. So even you might be thinking, oh, I don't have a dog or I don't have a cat, I have a fish, I have a little goldfish. Well, all pets can be affected. So dogs can be affected, cats, fish, birds, and even amphibians. So, looking at this little cute tiny puppy and this cute tiny kitten, when you bring a pet into your home, you're really, that pet is trusting you, and you're kind of promising the pet that you'll keep it safe, that you'll nurture it and love it. And so smoking definitely wouldn't be the way to, help your pet and show it that you love it. That would really be putting their risk at health. Sorry, their health at risk. Also, another way that smoking affects the environment is through water pollution. So runoff from tobacco farms and littered cigarette butts can leach dangerous chemicals into drinking water sources and various ecosystems. So this can harm humans, aquatic animals, and the animals that rely on the others for energy. So when these chemicals get into our drinking water sources, that can definitely affect humans. Also, if there are any fish swimming in any bodies of water that have been affected by these dangerous chemicals, that'll harm the fish, and then any animals that eat those fish, like birds, they would also get affected. And then in this image, we see this bird actually eating a cigarette. And as you can imagine, if just like smoking and putting a cigarette in your mouth can be so harmful to your health, imagine what actually eating one will do. So unfortunately, that bird and many others like it would have terrible health, would be exposed to really bad risks, and their health can definitely be compromised. So also, like we said, with the infographic, land pollution is also a way that the environment is affected by smoking. So cigarettes make up more than 1/3 of all collected litter. Cities spend between $3 million and $16 million on cigarette cleanup. And this is a lot of money, obviously, and that can be put to so much better use than just cleaning up cigarette butts. Also, e-cigarettes can leak heavy metals and residual nicotine into the environment, which can be really dangerous, like we said in the previous slide. And a not so fun fact is 6 trillion cigarettes are manufactured annually, so every year, which produces at least 2 million tons of waste. And as we said, this is not only taking up a lot of space in our landfills, but it's also making its way into oceans, and it's polluting that water, it's polluting our soil, our land, and it's causing really bad health effects and environmental effects. So smoking definitely does contribute to climate change. So deforestation and climate change. So tobacco is a plant, which means it has to be grown and harvested. And unfortunately, tobacco companies, people they hire tend to be children, people who are part of minority groups, migrant workers, and they don't have they're not given very good working conditions, they're not given proper protections. So they're really put at risk for nicotine toxicity, and especially for children. Handling the tobacco leaves, nicotine is a chemical that is found in tobacco. And so when they're handling that material without proper protection, they're put at risk for something called the green tobacco illness. And since their immune systems are they're not as developed as with adults, so they're really being put at risk, and it can really be detrimental to their health. Also, 4,740,000 tons of carbon dioxide are emitted annually by global cigarette manufacturing. So not only are you contributing to global warming every time you light up a cigarette, but just manufacturing the actual tobacco products really does contribute to climate change. So, it has to be grown, there's fertilizer that goes into that. When it's harvested, it has to be processed. Building that factory in the first place definitely emits tons, and actually was I muted? No, okay. Then actually processing that, the tobacco also produces lots of greenhouse gases, and then shipping that also emits lots of greenhouse gases. So that can all really be terrible for the environment and really contributes to global warming. And also at least 200,000 hectares of forests are lost for tobacco agriculture. So like we said, it's a plant, so it needs space to grow. And to do that, often forests and trees are cut down to make room for it. So as we know, through photosynthesis, trees remove carbon dioxide from the air and release oxygen in its place. So the fewer trees there are, the more carbon dioxide there is. So that's also a really negative impact on the environment. And so here, we talked about some direct effects on human health from smoking and direct effects on the environment from smoking. But also there's this sort of indirect way that your health can be affected every time that the environment is affected. So when we contribute to climate change, it definitely has an impact on our human health, on our health. So here there are a bunch of different ways that our health can be affected. I'm not going to go through all of them since there are 8, but a few that we kind of touched on were environmental degradation. So there can be forced migration, civil conflict, mental health impacts, loss of jobs and income, water and food supply impacts. There's malnutrition and diarrheal disease. air pollution and increasing allergens that can lead to asthma, cardiovascular disease, so like heart problems, and respiratory allergies. So again, not only are you affecting your own health and the environment, but you could be affecting basically every human on the planet every time you pick up a cigarette. So in conclusion, smoking not only harms your own health, but can also severely affect the health of everyone around you, so your family and even your pets. Smoking also negatively impacts the environment, thus affecting the entire world and every single living creature on it. And it's also really difficult to quit. So when it comes to smoking, prevention is definitely the best medicine. So the best thing you can do is to just never start. And so that's it. Here is everyone who made this presentation possible. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Now we will take some questions from our audience. A while ago, Emmanuel Garcia said that even in my apartment, smoke comes from floor to floor. And Emmanuel asked, how much does smoking impact a secondhand smoker?
Well, there isn't a secondhand smoker since they're not really doing anything except being, around people who are smoking. Like we said, it can still lead to pretty much the same health issues as with actually smoking. So, it takes a lot longer, and it's a lot more of a long-term effect. But you can get lung cancer. You can get, you can have like really bad coughs, difficulty breathing. So there are probably lots of other effects that people who are exposed to, especially the more you're exposed and the over like a greater amount of time, you'll probably have a lot more, dangerous health issues. So yeah.
Also, Gloria Wu asked, besides cancer, what other diseases can vaping and smoking cause?
I'm not entirely sure. There were the things that I brought up, like having an immune system, your immune system compromised, having like respiratory symptoms like coughing, difficulty breathing. There's lots of different types of cancers that you can get from smoking. But as to like anything else, I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to give you any like false information. So if anyone from the NYC Smoke Free can jump in, that would be fine too.
I think that you pretty much covered it, like the respiratory illnesses and, like it basically deteriorates every system of your body eventually. So yeah, it's really harmful to everything, I guess. I don't think that there are any more questions, so I would like to now welcome Dr. Mary Beth Terry, who leads the Science, Humanities, and Career Enrichment program hosted by the Office of Community Outreach and Engagement at the Herbert Irving Comprehensive Cancer Center.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to very briefly congratulate all of you. And what you did today was a year's worth of work that you did in just a few weeks. And I really wanted to thank Deirdre Sully and her entire team at NYC Smoke Free. It's been fantastic to listen to all these great ideas, and the videos were amazing, and all of you are already have made such an impact with your work you've done this summer, and I can't wait to see what else you're going to do. And I know that my colleague Dr. Jasmine McDonald, who we've been running this program together, I know she's on, so if she also wanted to just congratulate you, just give her the opportunity. And then Deirdre Sully was going to speak as well. But just want to thank all of you from the bottom of our hearts. It was fantastic, and I learned so much, and really proud of all the work that you just showed us, and congratulations.
Yes, that was wonderful, everyone. I really enjoyed it. I even had my 4-year-old watching. You know, you never can start too early. And he saw my flash drive next to it, and he said, "Mommy, you must throw that away. It's bad." But it really is a flash drive. But that just shows that he was attuned to what you were saying. So thank you so much. It was excellent.
Hi, everyone. This is Deidre, and I also wanted to just thank and congratulate all of the students who worked really hard on this. You guys did really well. And thank you so much for all of you attending and asking some of the great questions. I was looking at the chat. There was a lot of information, a lot of chatter going on. So I encourage any of you students who are also in attendance in our Zoom room, you know, to please reach out to any one of us at NYC Smoke Free. We're planning to do more of these, and we hope to see your faces on screen and virtually in the near future. Thank you so much again, and again, congratulations, guys. You did an awesome job.
Thank you, Dr. Terry, Dr. McDonald, and Deidre Sully. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And we also want to thank our panelists, presenters, video animators, Makiba Doumbia, Biancelli Diplon, Charity Ntui, Milan White, Nawar Ahmed, Avraham Wiesblatt, Nicholas Mancuso, Kenya Rodriguez, Oriana Parsa, Judy Hiwu, and Alicia Deer, Sabrine Mohammed, and Christopher Ash, and Shirley Wu, and also those who were involved in putting this afternoon together and making it possible for us. Once again, please remember to complete the survey, and it should pop up in your screen soon. And yeah, please do that before you leave. We hope you were all able to walk away with something new today and will join us in the fight against big tobacco. For more information on NYC Smoke-Free Reality Check, or to lend support in ending New York City's devastating tobacco epidemic, please visit nycsmokefree.org. And this concludes the end of this webinar. Thank you for joining us, and have a great evening.